What's going on, everyone? ODC here, and I'm back with another action figure review. Today, we're going to do a live review of the Marvel Legends Deluxe Target exclusive War Machine action figure. I know I don't think I've done a Marvel Legend review in, I want to say, maybe a year or so. So it's been quite a while since I've done a Marvel Legend specific character review. But I thought I'd switch it up since I normally just do like 3 3/4 inch stuff, which is, I don't get me wrong, I love 3 3/4 inch figures, but I still collect 6 inch figures as well. So I thought I would switch it up a little bit and do a review of Rhodey here. But anyway, I'll kind of wait for people to trickle in, and then I will start the review. It's a little bit earlier today than normal. Let me just pull him up a little bit further so you guys can see him. I don't want him to be too washed out with the lighting here. So that might help a little bit. There we go. A little bit of a backstory. Rhodey, actually, his first appearance was in Iron Man 118. That was in 1979. As War Machine, the first appearance of War Machine was Iron Man 284, which I actually own that issue, and that was back in 92. I believe the first appearance of the Iron Man armor was in the cover where I believe Iron Man was being attacked remotely. He was using his armor remotely, and it got badly damaged. And then at the end scene, you would see the War Machine armor being shown. But anyway, when this figure was actually announced, this was actually one of the top on my list for the year to pick up. And I don't think this was actually supposed to be released until October. That's most of the release dates that I've seen. But if you check I think it was last month, if you check some Targets, you could find them. I actually had this shipped from another Target to my Target. So another Target out of in South Carolina had this, so I had it shipped to my Target, and I went and picked it up today. Spent just a little bit over $30 on it. I think it came out to $32.99 with tax and everything included. So it was a pretty easy process to pick it up. Saved on shipping. All I had to pay was tax. I believe the retail on it is $29.99. And this is a deluxe figure. Now, we've seen a couple deluxe figures coming out this year with Black Widow and such, and they actually received some of the same treatment with the Iron Man 2020 effects and some of the Black Widow effects from the deluxe figure as well. I think it's a really nice touch that we're getting some deluxe figures. I still, to this day, and I don't care who disagrees with me, I still think that they should get rid of the Build-A-Figures, even though from a business standpoint it makes them more money, and I understand that. But because it makes people want to buy the whole wave if they want the Build-A-Figure. But it's annoying for us collectors because most of the time, like, I just might want just the Build-A-Figure and one figure from the wave, and that's it. And I don't want the whole Build-A-Figure. To me, I think it makes more sense to have the deluxe figure being sold separately and make the deluxe figure the Build-A-Figure. They've done that with a couple. I think they did it with Age of Apocalypse. He was essentially a Build-A-Figure, but he was already released before. I know the sculpts are different, but the overall aesthetic of the character being a Build-A-Figure was released as a deluxe figure. So if they've done it once or twice in the past, they'll do it again continuously. So I'm hoping that does happen. And you've also seen it with some of the anniversary 2-packs with Juggernaut and Colossus, and then Hulk and Wolverine. The Hulk figure and Juggernaut are essentially Build-A-Figures. But I know the Hulk wasn't technically a Build-A-Figure, but the size of it is Build-A-Figure-esque. But anyway, talking about Rhodey here, I might be too early. There's not a whole lot of people in the stream just yet. It is only 9:30 Eastern time, so maybe some people got some other stuff going on. But anyway, it is a really nice figure. I really actually dig the aesthetic of this character. I always liked the War Machine armor a lot better than any of the Iron Man armor, so I'm a big fan of the look of War Machine. I'm so glad that we finally got something to rival that Toy Biz Dave Vonner War Machine that we've had for so long, which I really dig that War Machine figure still, but you can tell it's a little outdated with the pancake hands, and some of the wobbliness of the legs. I got a lot of loose ankle syndrome with that War Machine, but it's still, for as old as that figure is, it still does hold up pretty well if you want to get him into certain flight poses. I do have some gripes, some nitpicks with this figure. I don't think he's a perfect figure. Some people are giving him 10 out of 10s and stuff like that, and I think they're getting caught up in the hype. And I think it's close to a perfect figure. I think it's pretty damn close. I mean, nothing is perfect, but I don't think the hype generates a perfect 10 out of 10 score or anything like that. There's some new nuances to the figure that they've added that I don't necessarily like the neck ball peg joint. I do not like that shit. Get rid of that shit right away. Especially with an Iron Man figure, don't put neck ball pegs in your Hasbro action figures, not in 2020. You shouldn't be doing that. The hinge joints are a necessity for Iron Man figures, any type, whether it's War Machine or anything. You need that hinge joint to get into those flight poses, and the fact that this does not have it, it's kind of a huge gripe for me, just because you need that flight pose. And even when I was trying to swap the peg, hey, how's it going, Zorpox? Even when I was trying to swap the head, the peg actually came out with this head, and I had to run it under hot water again to get the peg out of this head and back onto the neck joint. And it does want to pop off rather easy, so I wouldn't be surprised if during the review the head actually pops the neck peg out with the head. The head joint actually has quite a grasp on the peg, and it wants to pull it right out of the neck. Now, if you had a hinge joint, it wouldn't be pulling that, because the hinge joint would be settled and neutralized by the neck joint, and it would just hold. So you could just pop the head off a lot easier. I'm just not dealing. I'm not feeling the whole neck peg joint. Give me that hinge joint. You need it. So I'm not really sure why Hasbro's going that route this year with that. I'm not feeling it too much, I'm going to be honest with you. But that's one of my major gripes with it, I think. I do like the effects that they come with, and we'll get to that in a second. I just kind of want to give you guys a close-up look of that roadie head. Let me get this out of the way. Let me get his helmet out of his hand. And we'll get to the face sculpt, which I think this is a very, really good, a very really good rendition of that 90s roadie head. It kind of reminds me of the cartoon a little bit also. If you guys remember that horrific cartoon, oh my God, don't get me started on that. Maybe one day I'll do a real talk video just talking about that crappy 90s cartoon, which is just the hottest of garbages ever. But anyway, I love the box cut. Some people are actually using this head sculpt for a blade head sculpt, and I don't know. I like using it for roadie, to be honest with you. I think they still have not given us a good blade figure. They need to go back to the drawing board with that and release I would actually take a deluxe version. If they gave us a nice deluxe blade in the future, that would be some quality shit right there. But I'm digging the lines in the side of his heads. It's subtle, but they're there. His eyes, for the most part, are pretty well done. He's got that light brown eye, which looks pretty good. The facial hair looks really good. The sculpt on the top of the box cut looks really good. I'm just really digging this overall. It looks 90s, and it also looks military-esque. He's kind of like that box cut, crew cut. So it looks really good. I'm very pleased with this. The overall armor just screams 90s Iron Man, or War Machine, excuse me. But, you know, I think Tony actually did don the War Machine armor before Rhodey did. Then he handed it over to Rhodey. So I think this fits Rhodey better. I've always, like I said, I've always liked the War Machine design rather than the Iron Man suit designs. And this was the most iconic, I think, out of the other War Machines. Although I did like the Endgame, that big Endgame figure that came out, which was based on a concept design. That was actually a really cool design. I always picture War Machine being a little bit more bulky. As far as what he comes with, now he comes with these two smoke effects, which I have coming out of the double barrel right here, which looks good. And we've seen those with the Black Widow Deluxe figure, and they're kind of adding these in sporadically throughout other Deluxe figures and such, and also regular released figures. So that's a nice effect. We also have the alternate head, which we'll get to in a second, but we do have these other pieces. Let me just set him up. We'll take these out. We have these other firing pieces. You can also use these for pistols on other Marvel Legends, but it looks good when you get him all settled like this. So that looks good. I'm liking that. I think these were also included with Black Widow as well, with that Deluxe figure. Next up, we've got... I got to rotate these up. We'll get to that with articulation. Next up, we've got the Gatling Gun effect. It's a really nice effect. It sits snug on the Gatling Gun, so that's good. And I think it gives a really nice effect right there. Hey, Andy, what's going on, buddy? Welcome. A little bit earlier than I normally am, and I normally don't do back-to-back reviews on consecutive days. So this is it's been a long a long time since I've done one of those. But for the most part, I like this effect. I like the yellow going into transitioning into the red. That looks really nice. And then next up, we have the missiles. Now, the missiles are really awesome for a couple reasons. Number one, you can get these to go either way you want. You just have to kind of line it up. So if you want to have them going this way, you can. Let me just hike that up a little bit. There we go. If you want to have them going this way, you can. And if you want to switch that, flip it over. You can also have them going this way, kind of angled a little bit more upward. So let's say he's firing on something, and they could be going upward. And they both sit pretty well. You can also remove these missiles. So they're a separate piece on their own. So that's actually a really nice thing that they didn't have to add. Well, I always say, people always say they don't have to do that. Yes, they did. But it was nice that they did that just from a collector standpoint, because it's nice to have those options. So let's say maybe you wanted to have one of these floating out like that. You could maybe use photo manipulation to see that's projectiling a little bit further. Or if you just wanted to have one of these on its own, you could go that route. So that's a really cool effect. Also with the effect, you can take all of the missiles out too. They all depeg from the missile projectile. I really like the grays going on throughout this. I like the nice gray here. It's kind of like almost a translucent gray going into the yellow. It's a nice mixture right there. And then the red missiles and the yellow effect connecting to those red missiles. So very well done. I really have to say, a lot of these effects are very well done. Next up, which is pretty unique to this guy, I'm not sure, I don't think this was used. Same thing with the missiles. But you've got this kind of spread, and you can see it in the thumbnail. It's kind of a spread going left to right. You can invert this the other way. If you want to have it going the other way, you can go this way as well, from left to right or right to left. I know that's a kind of a shit pose right there, but you get the overall idea of it. Going this way to that way, or the other way, vice versa. On the effect itself, is a nice red going into the yellow. Looks really good. And obviously you could straighten these out more. You want to have these probably as straight as possible. Have to work with that. No big deal though. But it's a nice effect. I really like it. Next up, we've got two, count them two. All right, so we got that, that, and that. We have two of these, which we've seen with the Iron Man 2020 figure, and I believe the 80-year anniversary Iron Man figure. And they're projectiles coming from the bottom of the boot to give off the illusion that he's taking off. And then to add to that, let me just get a close-up. It's just pretty much just like a yellow translucent effect. But it looks really nice. To add to that, they gave us the Iron Man 2020 taking off effects, which I think these are the better effects. The Iron Man 2020 effects are just all yellow, and they're kind of like a vibrant, bright yellow. I prefer this a little bit better. It gives off a little bit more character to the effect itself with the gray. So that looks quite nice. And just to give you an idea of what you can do with this and this, you just plug those into there. It's pretty self-explanatory. And then you just want to have, well, obviously, maybe not in this lame-ass pose I'm doing, but I'm just trying to show you the effect of, well, it's a little bit forward heavy. There we go. That's what it'll look like when it's all connected. And you can also pose the legs separately. You can also detach this from the other effect. You don't have to have these clasped together. So that's a nice little effect to it. So good on Hasbro for thinking of this stuff, for showing some love to Rhodey as a character, and especially the 90s version. You know, I would assume that they wouldn't really probably care that much about this and just pump out another Iron Man figure. But it, you know, this look also in its own is pretty iconic. So moving on. Let me see if I can pop this head off without getting that head joint. Okay, so this is what I'm talking about. I want to show you and talk about this. This is my major gripe with the figure. I don't know how many other gripes I really have with the figure. Maybe just a little nitpick here and there, but I don't know why they're going to this technology. This is like backwards technology, if you ask me. I prefer hinge joints. Woodman, what's going on? Hello, everybody. I don't know. I'm just not feeling this at all. Like I said, when I got the figure out of package, and granted, I should have probably heated up the head. I know better. But I'm just not a big fan of, let me just move these, not a big fan of these ball peg neck joints. This is stuff that DC Collectibles did for years, and I wasn't a fan of it. And, you know, it's just, it's just old technology, and it doesn't need to be done. You can still get the head to pivot side to side. I've seen some people, well, you won't be able to get the head going side to side as much like this. But you can still do that with a hinge joint. You can still, if you seat the head properly on the body, you can get it to do that. So excuses. But here's the actual head. Let me get this on there without doing something silly. It seems like the War Machine actual head, not the Rhodey head, is a little bit tougher to get on, but once you pop it on, it stays. That's what the head looks like. Very well done. This is not a re-release. This is an all-new sculpt for this figure, for the Iron Man head, and just to prove that, I'll bring in The 80th anniversary head, which is completely different. Both head sculpts are also different. It's similar, but different. Just to prove that, there's the anniversary Iron Man, and here's the War Machine Iron Man. As you can see, this is much more 90s. This is a little bit more dated and classic looking. Hopefully we get an actual 90s Iron Man suit in this type of design, because I really dig this body. I just kind of hope that we get a 90s version of this Iron Man. Other than that, as far as the head goes, the detail and articulation, or the detail, I'll get to articulation later, but the detail on the head looks really good. I like the little red dot that we have there. I don't have a pointer, which I need to get. Actually, I can just grab a pointer as he fell over. You know what, you know what, Aquaman? We're going to use your trident as a pointer today, because it's a good pointer. Look at that point. The red on the head looks really good right here. I like the blacked out eyes, the blacked out little mouthpiece kind of going throughout. Very consistent, very nicely done. I like the sculpt of the head, kind of this ridge going all the way back to the back of the head. Sculpt on the head, like I said, looks top notch. Sculpt on this guy is pretty well done, even though he's mostly just black and like a silver. Or, yeah, pretty much black and silver here. But the silver is actually painted on. This arm is not painted on. It's just a silver plastic. You can see some marbleization right here in the bicep, as well as over here going throughout the arm. It's not as bad as other figures, but at least the torso isn't marbleized. This is actually painted right here, down here, and down there. It's all painted. The legs are a marbleized plastic, but you actually don't see too much marbleization going throughout the legs, which is good. So that's nice. You do also have pinless joints in these two arms, but unfortunately not on the legs, which isn't really the end of the world. Pins don't bother me too much as long as they're not, as long as they're subtle like this. It doesn't really bother me too much. It's I know people want these to look they want these to look so realistic and such, but it's still a toy. I mean, use your imagination. I would say that the paint matching job is pretty pleasant going throughout the legs and the torso and the head. You don't really notice that too much unless you really look. That obviously, you know, you're not going to notice too much of a difference between here and here. It still looks pretty consistent, pretty good, even though there is a little bit of that marbleization. The chest piece looks really good. Very first appearance, War Machine looking chest. And I really just dig the lines on this. Everything's pretty crisp and clean. I don't have too many quality control issues. I thought I was actually going to have a quality control concern when I got this guy, because I didn't pick this up off the shelf and didn't get a chance to look at it. I just had this shipped from another Target to my Target. So I was taking a risk on the roadie head looking weird, but the roadie head looks good. I don't really have any issues with that. On the back, there you go, with some more detailed design. As you can see on the top of the rocket launcher right here, some really good lines, nice lines going throughout. Some people might complain that there's not a lot of paint. Apps bringing out this out. It doesn't really bother me too much. I'm just going to be honest with you there. Maybe I would have liked a little bit of red for the barrels here. It would have, I think, added a little bit to it, but like I said, that's just a personal preference thing. It's not the end of the world. I like the little red for the sight. It almost looks like a sight or a laser. Maybe these are laser guided because they're on his shoulders. Very Predator-esque. But pretty cool. There's the chest piece again. A little bit more added detail right here on the chest. The circle for the arc reactor looks really good, even though I don't think this actually uses an arc reactor. On the back, I like the lines going throughout. The belt has a nice sculpt to it, and it's unique for this design. So he looks simple. He looks just like another Iron Man, but there's more to him than meets the eye. The shoulder pads are actually connected to the arm. So Marvel Legends is starting to do this. Hasbro's starting to do this with their Marvel Legends, where the normally we'd see a shoulder joint and this would be attached to this, but now it's just being attached to the arm so you can get a full 360 rotation in that arm. So that's a plus. I do like that. Regardless of whether it breaks up the sculpt or it looks funky, I think it works better if you do it like this as opposed to this thing flopping around and being hiked up like this while the arm's trying to move. So for me, it doesn't bother me. There's the legs, pretty plain Jane on the thighs. Going into the boots have quite a bit of detail. So those look really nice. I like the line work going throughout the boot as well. Or boots, I should say, plural. Moving on to the gauntlets. The gauntlets look really nicely done. It's just an all black plastic, but it works. It works for the figure. It works for the design. So, therefore, it's a win. I love this huge kind of cannon gun. It almost looks like the thing that this is like a big shotgun, but it does. It definitely would have to be a beefy shotgun right there if it was doing like shotgun blasts. But it looks cool. Regardless, it looks nice. So overall, I really like the head sculpt. I like both head sculpts, the Rhodey head sculpt too. And I'll just bring that in. Let me get him out of the way really quick. And I'll bring him in. See if I can prop this up on my pinky. There's the, that's not gonna sit well. So we'll do, what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? That's not gonna work either. Here we go, we'll do this. Will you stay? No, you won't? Okay, great. Tweezers it is. Tweezers it is. So as far as looking at the head sculpt here, let me get zoom in, and then there we go. Come on. Why are you not zooming on the face? There we go. The head sculpt, like I said, looks really good. Digging this. I just kind of want to give you a second look at it so you can really grasp the paint detail. Ears look good too. Nice sculpt on the ears too. There you go. Eyes look pretty good. Don't have too many issues with that. Overall, really digging that we actually get this as an option. So that's cool. And it does separate him from a regular Iron Man figure. Now, the articulation on this figure does have uniqueness to it because we've got hinge joints right here for both of the cannon and the gun. Got the MC Hammer haircut. I know, Woodman. Looks good though, man. That was Rhodey's look in the 90s, you know? Looks good. But the articulation, there's hinge joints on both sides of the one on the left and the left and the right. It does just slide up, kind of similar to a Predator figure. I actually wish Predator figures were this efficient in using this because the slide on this is really nice. It's nice and tight. It doesn't feel wobbly or cheaply made or anything like that. So if you're wondering, oh, is that going to get loose or anything? I think it would take a lot for that to get loose, a lot of usage for that to get loose, excuse me. But there's also a peg joint here, and you can detach this from that if you wanted to. So let's say if you wanted to switch this and have the Gatling gun on the other side, you could do that. I don't know why you would want to do that, but you can do that. It's up to you. Same thing on this side. It does have a hinge joint, which does go all the way up. And that's what they look like all the way up. Looks really cool. I like it a lot. And then just sliding these down just so for the sake of articulation, just so my hands aren't bumping into everything. He can swivel a full 360 rotation if you need him to. The major gripe that I had, which is trying to get him into flight poses, is kind of a hindrance due to this neck ball peg. Like I said, I'm not feeling neck ball pegs. Get rid of that shit. If this figure had a hinge joint on it and you can get this head all the way back, I'd say it's a damn near perfect figure. It looks really good. You could try to maybe get this off. Let's see if the thing is going to do that again. No, it didn't do it. You can try and like hang it like that, but the head is not on the peg at all. You could even try to go a little bit further back with it, although it's going to be super loose and it's going to fall off. But you can try to get this on there like so, and maybe use the, oh no, this ab crunch doesn't really want to go too far back past neutral. So it's kind of like a thing you're going to have to deal with this, which is, I think it's a fail boat. I think it's a little bit of a fail boat on Hasbro's part going to this type of technology. I just, don't ever go backwards. If it works, stick with what works. Especially on an Iron Man figure, you want to get him into that flight pose. He's got to be able to get into that flight pose for me. But the head can pivot side to side. Really good range of motion there in the pivot side to side. But I don't think doing this is all that necessary for an Iron Man style figure. It just, So, does War Machine really need to be doing this all the time? I don't think so, as Kevin McAllister would say. Let's see if he's got some job turkeys. Oh, yeah, we got a little job turkey right here. So there's some job turkeys for yourself. And then looking down, that's what he looks like looking down. And then for the arms are on a hinge joint right here. We got some turkeys, that's right. And that's about it for the arm. Arm's going to go up about that far. Let me get his head neutraled. Both arms. That's what they look like right there. And the arm goes down, full 360 rotation in the arm. And like I said, the shoulder pad does stay there, or shoulder armor. He does have the typical Marvel Legends swivel at the bicep, a double jointed elbow. He does have does he have a glove swivel? I don't think so. He has a wrist swivel and a hinge joint, which goes back and forth, like so. And does this one go up and down, or does it go back and forth? It goes back and forth. It mirrors this one. The ab crunch does crunch forward, which is nice. But yet again, it doesn't really crunch back past neutral. That's about neutral. That's as far back as that goes. That's kind of another knock against it, I would say. Like I said, this is still a really nice figure, but I don't know. Some of the range of motion here is a little weird. Arms go back down, like I said. There's a neutral pose for you. He does have a waist swivel, which can do a full 360 if you need it to. He can do the splits, which the splits are really good on him, but does he need to do them? I don't know. Not really. Legs go forward. Don't really go back due to the sculpting of the rear end. He does have a double jointed knee, which can get way back there. Good double jointed knee. Get his arm out of the way. And upper thigh swivel, which can do a 360. Ankle pivot. He points the toe. Points the heel. Not all that great. That's about neutral. So, his range of motion's okay. He is a bulkier figure, so I will use that into account when talking about this figure. But the head, I think, is the head joint is a little bit inexcusable. I still am kind of baffled why they decided to go with this style of articulation with the neck joint. I don't get it. I just really don't like it at all. But I mean, I got bugs flying in my face. Stupid little gnats, I hate them. Gotta unplug that if I'm gonna get over here and start posing him. But you can pose him. He doesn't have an issue with posing, really. So I'm not really worried about that. That's not a knock or anything like that. I don't really have too many issues with some people complain about the breakup of the Sculpt or this, that, and the other thing with the shoulder pads. That doesn't really bother me. That's not a deal breaker for me. What is a deal breaker is that if you already had, like I said, if you already had technology that was working prior with the neck joint, and you know, the ab crunch being a little bit hindered too is not a very good thing, and that's maxed out with him. Let's get his. There we go. You know, he's a fun figure aesthetically, and he's a fun figure in your hand, and that's an important part too, though. So while I'm saying, yeah, I really don't like this neck joint, and I'm kind of hammering that home, I guess, a bit too much, I'm just trying to make a point so you're not let down when you get the figure, so you understand what the deal is. But you can pose him. He gets into poses. You can still get him into flight poses. That's not a big deal. And like I said, if you could put effects in him, he loves it. He loves it. And we'll get this going on over here. I think if I were to add something to this, obviously I'd fix the neck to a hinge joint. But that aside, I would have maybe added some hands, some different hands, some open palmed hands for him. I know it's a little bit difficult with this, but I think if you slide the hand like this, you could maybe fit an open palm in there or not. But I think that would have been a nice little added touch if you added just a couple more hands in there. But you know, I'm not gonna, like I said, that's a personal preference nitpick. That's not a gripe against the figure itself. The figure does what it's supposed to do for the most part, except for that neck joint. A little bit more of an ab crunch going backwards would help the figure, I think, as well. But overall, I'm pretty pleased with this. The $30 price point, I don't think it's that bad. I think he sits around that price. You know, I think on Amazon, what was it? There's pre-orders up for him going for 26 and change right now. So if you want to check out Amazon and save some money, you probably can get him for under 30 bucks. But if you find him at Target and such, you're going to end up paying that $30 price point like I did. Not the end of the world. I still, like I said, he comes with all these effects. He comes with these missile effects. He comes with the flight stand effects, which you can, like I said, you can detach them. So if you want to get him into like more of a flying pose like this or something, like a super dynamic pose, you could separate these, put these in here like so. Actually, it would go that way. You could get him into more like of a crazier flight pose. Like something like, I don't know why he would be in a flight pose like this, but might be a crouching one, like he's taking off. And you could have this kind of aiming backwards and that backwards, and let's try and get him situated here. Doesn't look like a buffoon. Just really think that neck joint is just kind of a whoopsie on their part. I mean, that's maxed out right there. And if I take him, you can see, and he's falling over. A little bit back heavy. Just kind of have to work with it a little bit. But, you know. That's what you can do. And obviously there's different options of how you want to pose him. If you want to pose him any way you want, you can go that route. I'm trying to think what else I could add in here for the review. If you want to check out some of this specific, what you call it, War Machine comics. War Machine did have his own run for a while. I remember having it when I was a kid, but I don't remember what year that run came out. So if you wanted to check out maybe the first appearance stuff, you could always check out the, what was it? The Iron Man trade, or I think it's the Iron Man trade paperback, the Invincible Iron Man trade paperback, where it says War Machine on the front. I have it somewhere. I just don't know where it is right now. But it also says Death of the Iron Man on the back. I think this just came out not too long ago, but there was also a previous one. No, that one, I think that one's the older one. I always get confused with this. Which one's the newer one? Which one's the older one? I think the newer released trade paperback set had more stories in it. Or did it have a lot? I think it has more pre-War Machine stories. And then the Invincible Iron Man one has all of the covering the first appearance and everything. So regardless, those are some options. If you want to check that out, you can. Like I said, I'm just trying to add as much information as possible here, just so you have it, in case you're interested in something like that. So if you don't know too much about Rhodey, and you only know maybe just about what you know from the movies, you can check that out. I think it's a pretty good read. Like I said, if you don't want to get the individual comics, you can get the trade paperback. Like I said, it's called The Invincible Iron Man. And it's the 90s run. So you want to get the 90s. And I think it's what is it? I think it's issue 280. If you get to issue 289 to 291 or 292, I think you should be good with that whole run with War Machine, the first appearance with War Machine and everything. And I think that also covers Rhodey in the War Machine suit, which is what you're going to want to read. Originally, Tony Stark did don the War Machine the War Machine suit, and then he gave it over to Rhodey a little bit later. But I don't know. I think that's pretty much it. I don't think there's much left to say about this figure. I would definitely still give it a 2 thumbs up, even though I don't like that neck joint. I think it's a really solid looking figure. It gives you that 90s look, for an update that we haven't had since, what, I want to say, there was a Face-Off 2-pack War Machine, which was just a repaint of the 90s Iron Man that came with the Mandarin. And then there was the Dave Vonner War Machine figure. Everybody calls it the Dave Vonner War Machine figure because Dave Vonner's face sculpt is actually underneath the mask. So, in case you were wondering why the hell does he keep saying Dave Vonner, that's why. I really liked all the effects. I mean, he comes with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. If you count this head, 13. And if you count those, 14, 15. And if you count these missiles, 16, 17, 18. Accessories. So he does come with a lot of accessories, but he's not like, a G.I. Joe, which includes a ton of accessories and then there's nowhere to put anything. For the most part, you can put the majority of these accessories on the figure. You can fit the missile effects on there. You can fit the Gatling gun effect on there. You can fit the spread effect on there. You can fit the taking off effects on there as well. You can use these. The world is kind of your oyster with this figure because it gives you so many options, and you can also use most of the effects on the figure itself. Maybe you might have a couple extra left over with the smoke effects and the two separate like pistol effects right here. But, you know, they still gave you a ton of, and maybe an extra head, obviously. But you could also actually have this head on there and have him hold the helmet if you wanted to. So you could essentially have him holding everything if you wanted to. And that's kind of the point. Do the accessories meet the purpose of the action figure? Do they have a purpose with the action figure? Do they fit the character? Yes, everything ticks those boxes. So I'm going to go ahead and, like I said, stick up 2 thumbs for this figure, and I think it's worth the $30 price point. If you can get him for a little bit cheaper, I'd say snag him. This is definitely a very good Marvel Legend. And like I said, even if you're not a big fan of War Machine and you just want one War Machine figure, I think this is the one to get. I really do. I just hate that neck joint, and I wish the ab crunch would go back a little bit further so you could at least help with those flight poses. But overall, I really don't have too much else left to say about this. I don't do too many Marvel Legends reviews anymore. But this was one I wanted to do. As far as any comparisons go, I'll do comparisons really quick, and then I'll let you guys go. I'll just set him up back here, put these back so you can get a really good idea. And we'll just bring in... I'm not going to do like 10,000 comparisons like some people do, which is just redundant. If you get an idea of what a figure looks like, then you get an idea. But here is a 90s character with a 90s character. There's the 90s Deadpool from the Sasquatch wave. And then here's Iron Man right there from the Anniversary wave. We'll get a big boy in here. Let's see, who's a big boy? Who's the big boy? Let's bring in him. And we'll bring in him. And we'll bring in him. And that'll be that. I'm not going to really be doing too many comparisons with other lines just because, I mean, you're going to want to put a War Machine figure with with a Star Wars Black Series figure. I don't know. I think that's kind of redundant or pointless to do that. Not redundant, but pointless. So here is, actually, let me grab one more. So I can do one more set of, all right, we'll use him. All right, here is 2 big boys, and these are on their own kind of body sculpt, so you can get an idea of how big he is. And here's Thor, and Thor's on a bigger body. So there you go. He's got a pretty good size to him. Does look bulky. Not bulky, but bulky. Does anybody in the comments know who the hell bulky even is? Please let me know. There's Bucky Cap body with Havoc, another really good figure, and here is Cable. And that's going to be it for comparisons after that. Not really much else to go. Actually, I could show a couple female figures just so you get an idea of how big he is with that. Grab her, and then we'll grab her. I think these are on the same body. I'll grab somebody else then. Bear with me. This is live, so. All right, these 2 should suffice. Okay. Whoa, bumping and stuff. All right, I'll get Havoc out of there. Really like that Havoc, by the way. A 2-pack ever drops down to 30. I think you guys should snag it. I think it's worth the 40, though. I do. All right, so here is Missy Mystique. And for the last comparison, we'll do Jean Grey. There you go. Jean, I want to say, is a little bit taller than Mystique, so she's a little bit taller. And that's going to be it for the comparisons. Nothing really else left to show here as far as that goes. Pretty sure you guys can get an idea of that. But for the most part, this is a fun-looking figure. I like it quite a bit. And, yeah, I'm definitely going to be playing around with him all night. It's going to be a lot of fun posing him. Sir Gideon Heavensbrand. Is that what you wanted to hear? I mean, I could just do that. Sir Gideon is in Buffalo. So he is not here yet. He is not here. Unfortunately, last time I visited the old homeland, I didn't have enough room to bring my Mythic Legions back home with me. But I only have a couple here. So, but anyway, there is War Machine. There's the story. It's been told. That's pretty much it. Thank you to the few people that popped in here. Thank you to Zorpox. Zorpox, hit me up, buddy. If you guys are doing the podcast on Sunday, I'd like to join up. Same with you, A&D. If you guys are free. But thanks, A&D, for popping in. Thank you, Woodman, as always, brother. And, yeah, thanks, everybody, for popping in. Like I said, I'll probably, if I do get my shipment on Sunday, I keep thinking it's Saturday for some reason. I don't know why. I'm losing my mind. But if I do get my shipment on Sunday, there will be a video. Maybe I'll do a video tomorrow. I don't know. I'll see how I feel. But yeah, like I said, 2 thumbs up for this War Machine figure. Go pick them up. And, yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys on the flip side.